Hi, I'm Marcel, and welcome to me screaming into the void, mostly about books. I am doing Criminolia's Read What You Own challenge, where my husband has picked out 100 of the books that we have on our shelves that I hopefully haven't read, wrap them up, give them all a number, and then I pick them one at a time by using my little old reusable salsa jar. And now I have read Music from the Blue Well by Torborg Nederaas, and I've also read Nothing Grows in Moonlight, which is her more famous book. So I know that Nothing Grows in Moonlight is available in English translation, and this one is also available in English translation, but it is not sort of in publication anymore. So I'll leave a link to where you can borrow it as an ebook through archives.com, which is one of my absolutely favorite sites of all times, because you can borrow books that are not in print anymore. So, Music from a Blue Well is the second one in a trilogy about a young girl called Haradis, who in the first book she is starting kindergarten, and in this book she is starting school. So she is about 5, 6 at the start of the book. Now, two things is going to happen in this time span that this book covers. Number one is that you have First World War happening. Now, that doesn't really say something about the book. It's very little present because she is a young child. She isn't interested in a war that Norway, this is Norwegian authors, it's set in Norway. Norway wasn't really active role in the First World War. So in the sense that we're neutral, and you can always discuss what neutral means. But the same way that Torborg Nederaas's mother was of both German and Jewish descent, so is Haradis of Jewish and German descent. So that is where you sort of talk a little bit about the First World War. More centered, more important in this book is the fact that this is a book that talks about divorce, in the sense that Haradis' parents get divorced when she is, again, around 7, 8 years old. And it is Norway, it is 1918, so divorce wasn't very common. And what I absolutely loved about this book is that this book doesn't say that divorce is bad. It's neither the mother or the father are sort of the bad guy for getting a divorce. But at the same time, the way Haradis reacts to the divorce, the way she then communicates with her parents, the way that this shifts everything around for her, is in a very realistic way. So Torborg Nederaas is herself a child of divorce around the same time that this book is set. So she's very good at describing both the societal taboo of being a child of divorce, how this there's a scene, for example, where she has just realized that, or she has gotten, her parents have told them that we are going to get a divorce, and so now she is acting out at school. And the teacher sort of wants to have a conversation with her because she wants to know, well, why are you acting out? And how did this is like, my parents are getting divorced. And the teacher starts giving her gifts because the teacher has no idea how to deal with this situation. So she is like, oh, here you go, here's a book. There's sort of, there is so clearly the society around tries to show empathy, tries to show care for this young child, but they have no idea how to do that. And I really then enjoyed reading about how, at the same time, sort of divorce is divorce, that's just what it is, talking about so openly how confusing something like that can be. My husband read it when he was in upper secondary or high school. He didn't really understand it. It was okay, but he was not a child of divorce. And he didn't know anyone, so he thought it was well written, but nothing more than that. While I'm not a child of divorce, but I know more people who have been divorced, having been educated as a teacher. Of course, divorce is something that we should learn about, but don't really learn about because it is a difficult topic to do research on. How do we sort of protect and care for children of divorce without demonizing divorce? It's an interesting balance there that we haven't really understood well within my field. And so reading this was a very wonderful way of trying to understand how divorce can impact someone who is so young without sort of demonizing the institution of divorce.
Yeah.
So the other book that I read is Nothing Grows in Moonlight. This is a book about a woman who meets a man. At the end of the night, they go back to his place, and she asks him, do you want my body or do you want my soul? I want your soul. Okay, and then she starts telling her story about how she grew up in extreme poverty and how that influenced her lack of ability of connecting with other people. And what I mean with that is that she is very clearly highly intelligent, but the parents don't really have any way of supporting that, not emotionally, not socially, and not economically. So she has no sort of way of dealing with everything that she's going through, and this manifests itself into bitterness. She describes so fantastically the anger she feels of looking out of the window and watching her mother carrying pitchers of water up and down, up and down, up and down, and how infuriating that is, because she sees no other way out for herself. She has no way of imagining a different outcome of her own life. And then she falls in love with men who aren't really good for her, and how her life then ends up spiraling a bit because she doesn't have sort of an emotional growth of, and a way to sort of take a space in the world. And what I absolutely loved about that book is how it talks about what poverty can do to you, what poverty does that isn't just the physical things. It isn't just the lack of supplies or the lack of food, but living in constant poverty, growing up in constant poverty, it does something with your mindset. It does something with how do you understand time? How do you understand what the purpose of life is? What is a good enough life? What is good enough to spend your time on? One example that I've talked a lot with friends that have grown up in poverty, I have not done that, but it's just the concept of planning for your future. If you grow up in poverty, there is no sense of planning for the future because everything is just this crisis and this crisis and this crisis and this crisis and this crisis. It's all about just making sure that the now works, that the now functions. So the idea of planning, the idea of looking forward to something in the future isn't really an idea that you have the luxury of sort of incorporating. And that is one of the things that that book sort of shows so brilliantly. So absolutely would recommend people who are interested in books that are introspective, that talk about class, talk about women's issue, talks about divorce. They're very focused on, they're character-driven, very focused on the emotional journey that these characters are doing and how the society around them influences the characters. How does the institution of divorce and everyone's reaction to divorce sort of impact you as a young child? How does poverty impact you as a teenager trying to figure out who you want to be? So 2 brilliant books, one on my shelf, one wasn't, but I'm very glad that I read both. And now I am doing my next pick. I have to say that I have now actually fixed up the books because at least, especially the bag was a complete mess because it was moving everything about. So now everything is fixed, and I am going to read book 74, which wasn't in my bag. So I've sort of fixed everything in the bag, and I don't even need it because I'm going to have, in addition to the bag, I have this shelf on wheels. So I hope, at least, that I will quickly find it. I've been focused so much on the bag and everything regarding the bag that I completely forgot the shelf. So it turns out I need to fix the shelf as well. Right when you're done fixing one thing, you need to fix another. This is book 74. As I stated, my husband picked out all the books and wrapped them, so I have no idea what books they are. Rants and Incendiary Tracts, Voices of Desperate Elimination, 1558 to the present. I have absolutely no idea what this book is at all. It's a collection of texts written from 1558. So we have The Monstrous Regime of Women from John Knox, A Pirate Rant from Captain Bellman, 1670, Murder by Karl Heinz, 1849. On Fair in 1971, The Process of Church. I'm looking forward to seeing what this is. And if you want to know what it is, join me next time on this channel. So remember to subscribe. And thank you for listening to me screaming into the void.